in amongst that sea of drudgery, you can be this nice little surprise that pops up every so often. Hey!
This one's for the disruptors, the uncommon, the unconventional, the rebels. You're not here to take things lying down. Well, season 2 is about shaking things up. I'm Beatrice, and this is the Art of Branding podcast. Be ready. Be badass. Let's shake some shit up. There's a heck load of graphic designers and illustrators out there. They're loud and proud for the most part, reminding me of my hospitality days and all the chefs I knew. And if you know what I'm talking about here, you know. But Dave here, he makes his voice heard and isn't afraid to break down designs and show his badassery with Doodle Juice Design. So really stands out. And look, I know last week you were talking about falling in love with creative as a kid, with the cartoon book and Porky Pig. P.S. Fellow Looney Tunes addict here. I saw that. It reminded me of when I was a kid, and I remember looking at TV ads and going, gosh, that would be such an easy and fun job. I could easily put two random things together and then pow, there's an idea. And then school happened, got pushed down, lost, and it disappeared. I mean, have you found that as well with other people? What do you think?
It's weird. I don't, that sounds very similar to what school did to me. I completely, it was weird. I went into school loving art and went out and came out the other side hating it. It completely put me off it. My two favorite things in life are art and music, and both of those things I hated in school. There was something about being taught them that I really didn't get on with, and I thought I went through all of school thinking I didn't have a musical bone in my body. I mean, I'm not amazing, don't get me wrong, but I played drums. But so going through school, I remember in primary school, I was handed a violin at the age of, no, sorry, that's a lie. I was handed a cello at the age of 7, right? And I'm this tiny little ginger kid, and someone hands me this instrument that is taller than me, and I've got to carry this thing around and learn it. And I was like, I don't understand what it do. So there's something about being taught creative things that I really dislike, and I don't know what it is. I've never wanted to get a lesson in art and design. I've never wanted to get a lesson playing the drums, not because I think I'm good. Don't get me wrong, it's not an arrogant thing. It's just there's something about applying rules to those things and practice and technique that I find so unappealing. And I've never really given it a massive amount of thought to try and figure out why. I just know that I have no interest in really drilling into why I enjoy those things and why they work. If it seems to be just a natural thing, so I'm not going to mess around with it, just going to enjoy it. So I think that's why school put me off it. School tried to make those things and I understand why, but it tries to make them formulaic and put these little techniques into you and put things into boxes and all that kind of shit, and it put me off it entirely. So yes, I relate, but I haven't heard the same thing from many people. Actually, I'm not sure if it's just a weird thing that I'm wired wrongly, but yeah.
I feel like it's just creating little drones, little just the same, right? For whatever year we learned. See, if we take to copywriting, right? Now you have a look at the things that actually work compared to what we learned in school. You need to have more words and it needs to be super eloquent and use the biggest words that you know, rather than just trying to connect now, which is the things that really work. And It's we have to either completely unlearn everything or pull out that side of us before all of this schooling and society in general, which is just continuing this this vibe of creating like duplicates.
Yeah, I remember I used to work in. So I used to run a drum shop in London, and we were really close to a music college, and so we had like drum kits set up around the place. All these students would come in from the local music college, and they would sit behind a kit, and they'd be shit hot players, but they all sounded exactly the same. They'd all be pulling out the same chops and everything. You could just hear it was just they sounded just like a replica of one another. There was no one that came in and it was like, oh shit, you're doing something really interesting there. It was just like, yeah, I've heard that a million times, because you're all being taught the exact same things. You're all coming out as like little carbon copies of each other, which is fine. I'm not really arguing for or against it, but it's just a sort of an observation that it was never something that interested me, learning how to do all the things the way everybody else was doing them. Not because I'm better, really not. Probably because I'm worse, if anything. But yeah, it just never appealed to me.
How have you found that in terms of standing out? Because, you know, how we started, right? It's like there are just so many people in that graphic design and illustration and everything. How have you found that, like, disrupting or shaking things up, or like your videos stand out? You spend a hell of a lot of time.
I spend a feck load of time on them. Yeah, it's very true. I'm a big believer in doing stuff that 99% of people aren't willing to do. And there's a reason I typically only really put out one video a week. It's because that one video takes a fucking long time. And I don't outsource any part of it because I have no interest in outsourcing any part of them. So coming up with the ideas from it, filming it, editing it, the sound, it's all me, because I really, really enjoy it. Like it's if I didn't like the editing, then I would probably farm it out to somebody, but I actually really like it. So I don't want anybody else involved with it. So so it's fun. And I know there are a ton of people, especially on Instagram, who have massive followings doing what I do. And there's a format that seems to work insanely well with graphic design, and it's replicated by a number of graphic designers, and they all get insane views, and they all have massive followings. And it's a format I could adopt tomorrow, but I've just no interest in following what anybody else is doing. So my following is teeny tiny in comparison to them, but I enjoy what I'm doing. I realized very quickly that it's more important for me anyway, whatever I'm creating, if I'm going to do this consistently, and I want to put out a video every single week, because A, it's fun, B, it helps me be more creative, and C, it doubles up as a great marketing tool for me, which is great. I need to do something that I enjoy. So anytime I've come across a formula or a format for a video that is actually like blown up and done really well, what you should do is latch onto that and repeat that format for infinitum until it bleeds dry. But I've never had an interest in that. There are a couple of formats that I enjoy, so I've done them 3 or 4 times. But you'll notice with any of my videos, if you go back far enough, some of them I've repeated the same idea a few times, but I generally get to about the 4th time around and I go, nope, it's enough of that. So I like to do loads and loads of different things, but I suppose I saw an opportunity with LinkedIn, especially because LinkedIn is mostly dull, mostly a sea of absolute drudgery. But that's my favorite thing about it, because in amongst that sea of drudgery, you can be this nice little surprise that pops up every so often. Hey, I'm not the the dull thing. Do you want to see what I've got? I'm not the dull thing. Hey, and then they watch me and I go away. And then underneath me is another dull thing. So that's kind of part of LinkedIn's charm, I think. So I mean, don't get me wrong. There are still a load of people doing really cool things on there. You know, there's some people I'm connected to that I absolutely adore on LinkedIn. But the beautiful thing about the platform is there is a small number of really, really cool, interesting people on it, and an absolute deluge of just dross. So it's still relatively easy to stand out on there, and I think that's part of its charm. So I kind of quite like it. And then with the videos, I spend an inordinate amount of time creating what I'm going to be showcasing on the video, and then I spend a lot of time on the edit. And I know the vast majority of people who do what I do are not willing to put that amount of time in. So that's it, really. And I think that's the same with whatever you do in business. You've got to be willing to do the extra thing that most people can't be arsed doing. And chances are you'll do all right.
But I think one thing that really stood out, what you just said, was that fun part. And there's two things that came to mind when you said that. One was clients that I've worked with, they've been hella surprised that, oh, wait, like this is actually really enjoyable to go through and like define what our brand represents, what differentiates us, how we're positioned, etc. Like building all that up is actually super enjoyable compared to, a lot of the drudgery. And then the second thing is something that I've actually been thinking about a lot recently is it's so easy to get lost in that you have to keep on like the stuff that you have to keep on fucking doing, right? Like to make it happen, you almost lose sight of that fun. Like this should be fun. This should be enjoyable because the stuff that actually resonates, like if I look back, say for example, to things like Cinderella's brand strategy, like super strange creative ideas, but I was having fun. I was enjoying that moment. And that is so easy to get lost. And it's something that I recommend, to keep on touching base on. Like, are you enjoying? Are you still enjoying this? How can you bring it back? Like, how can you make this process enjoyable so that creative side is still there?
Yeah. I don't think you can come up with anything interesting if you're not enjoying yourself. You'll just the second you because I see it when I even on working on client projects, you see sometimes this doesn't happen often, but sometimes if you start a project with someone and they're really fired up to do something interesting, and you start off presenting some ideas and it's going really well, and then something happens that the logical sort of cautious part of their brain kicks in and goes, actually, I've been having to think about this, and I think we should maybe play it a little safer.
Oh my
and then
God,
you go, and then you die a little bit inside, and then all of a sudden they come up with the idea that they'd actually rather do instead. You stop enjoying the project and you produce work you're less proud of because the end result is not going to deliver on what you originally told them you could deliver, which was an interesting idea that would get some eyeballs on it because that's the original concept you had. And you put in all of your energy into that, and you were like, this is going to be great. And then all of a sudden, when they come in with the little safe, dull idea, then at the end, when you send an invoice for the work, you're not invoicing them for your best work. And and as much as you argue for it, they might just want to do something safe. So when that happens, it's crushing.
Crushing.
But my point is, when you're not enjoying something that you're just not producing. When you're really fired up about something, I could sit in front of this computer and 14 hours could pass and I won't even notice if I am stuck in something that I'm so into. The sun could go down. I can lose friends and loved ones to tragic accidents. I won't notice. I'll just be like consumed with what I'm in. And that's what happens when you're really, really into something. And then when you're not, you just can't wait to just fucking stop it.
Exactly. And even like the opposite can happen. Like you can sit there for 14, doesn't necessarily mean you should. You could sit there for 14 hours and just nothing fucking happens.
Yeah.
And speaking of, okay, we're here about disruption, right? So like, are there any disruptive brands that really resonate with you? I know that you did a new version of like Liquid Death a year ago, but like, are there any others that really like fire you up and you guys like, oh my God, they're so fucking good?
I find myself more interested in copy, weirdly, than I do in design. I get much more of a kick. I just find it. I find things much more impressive when I haven't got a clue how to do them. So I'm much more impressed by a piano player than I am by a drummer. For example, like, you know, I adore. I could watch someone smash out on the kit for hours on end, and I'll love it, and I'll admire the hell out of them, and I'll be so impressed. But there's something about watching a pianist who has total command of that instrument that absolutely blows me away, and I cannot get my head around it, and my jaw will be on the floor. I'll be so impressed. And it's kind of the same with the design. Like, I have loads and loads of designers that I love and artists that I love, and I absolutely adore them. But it's a different kind of admiration than something you can't quite get your head around, which is, for me, that's copy. Like, people who are really, really good at succinctly explaining something in just a short sentence, and if they can also make that sentence humorous or controversial or what, that just amazes me. I adore it.
Do you have one?
Yeah, so I find myself gravitating more towards that because it's more sort of magical to me because I don't quite understand it. It's more sort of mystical. So I gravitate more towards that than I do any sort of design stuff.
Is there like one copywriter, like, I don't know, even in history that you're just like, oh my God?
There's many. So I think when it comes to LinkedIn, there's so many. I don't even want to single one out because I adore them all.
I mean, you can avoid offending people on LinkedIn. Like, just say, like, I don't know, one of the old school.
Yeah, it's not even that. I just adore them all. Dave Harland. I don't know if you know. Do you know Dave Harland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you must connect with Dave immediately. If you don't,
do it. Yeah.
He's a legend. Joe Watson is another one. I absolutely adore Joe. Dan Kelsall, who I know doesn't technically consider himself a copywriter, but he is very, very good at writing as well as coming up with ideas. Lewis Kemp is another one who, again, doesn't consider himself a copywriter, but is just exceptional at writing little posts on there. So it's guys like that who they have an incredible command of the English language that I just absolutely adore, and I find that so much more impressive than I do anything related to what I do.
If people are wanting to shake things up in like their industry with their visuals, with their graphics and illustrating, aside from obviously like hiring you, I mean, what would you recommend?
The thing is, it's quite an easy thing to do. So if I don't want to harp on about the same things, right? But I've always said to people that they should nail in their copy first before they come anywhere near someone like me, because it is so much more important to have that nailed down for a brand than it is to get it looking pretty. You have a good offering, make sure your service is shit hot, then talk to people in a really, really intriguing way, then come to someone like me. One thing that really, really annoys me about people who do what I do, and actually, saying it annoys me isn't fair because I know why they do it. They do it because they want work. But most people who do what I do bang on about the fact that getting your visuals right is the most important thing. It's really not. I can understand why they do it, and I don't want to shit on them because they need work as much as I need work, and you have to make yourself look important in order to get people to spend money on you. I get that. It is important. It's not the most important thing. I know people who run incredible businesses and their visuals are absolute dog shit because it's not that important for what they do. I know a guy who runs a cleaning company and it looks like hell. It doesn't matter. His service is incredible. So it doesn't matter that his logo is pants. It's so unimportant for him. But for some people, it is important. It depends where your company sits, like how people are finding you. If they're finding you on an app store along with a load of other app icons, yours needs to look great. If they're finding you, on social media with all of the other competitors and stuff, and you're coming up against the website, then you want to stand up visually against the others. Because it's those kind of things that are sort of subconscious to people. They won't initially pick up on them. Most people really won't. They're just sort of there in the background. But they're still picking up on them subconsciously. So you want to make sure you look shit hot. And it's not actually that hard to stand out visually because, like we said before, most people are quite cautious of doing anything that will put their head above the parapet. So they'd rather, this is what everybody else is doing. I know it's working for them. So why would I do something different if I know it's working for them? Because you're the new kid on the block, or, you want to attract people instead of them going to those. And if they're looking at 10 other people who all look like carbon copies of each other, what are you saying that's different? Because most people don't really have a USP in terms of service. They'll put some fluff towards it, but really, when you think about it, there's not many people out there that offer something radically different than all of their competitors. Not really. So what you have to do is attract people by talking to them like they are humans, really relatably, in a way that they're just going to really connect with. And whether you do that through humor or just talking to them like you would to a mate down the pub, just really relatably or whatever it is, then that's what you should do. And then you find that tone of voice and the visuals hook up with that. So if it is all about humor, you can be a little bit quirky with some of the images that you use about that. If you're just being blatantly honest and cutting through to the bone and not giving any bullshit jargon sort of stuff, then maybe you're appealing to someone who doesn't like all of the nonsense techie side about now. So you make yourself look really nostalgic. You make yourself look like some cool vintage brand from the 60s and the 70s maybe. So you're like, listen, I know you don't understand all this modern nonsense. It doesn't matter. We're the guys who handle all that stuff. And we will give you this hint of nostalgia so we're not these big, scary dudes you're not going to understand. So whatever route you take your copy down, you can complement it with really cool visuals. And it's not hard to do. You just need to have the tiniest little ball sack to just be prepared to move forward with it and take a risk. And most people have completely inverted ball sacks when it comes to these sorts of decisions. And I want to be the ball sack extractor. I don't know where this is coming from.
So just put like a Porky Pig on there, or like, you know, the Looney Tunes character. Which is your favorite Looney Tunes character, though? We're going to make you like, I'm not going to offend any one of my Looney Tunes characters.
Mine's is it the Tasmanian Devil? It might be the Tasmanian Devil, just because he's a psychopath. He just destroys everything in his
funny. He's just like a smart ass
in his path and doesn't care that he's doing it. Like, I quite like that.
I think it would probably be him. Is that he's got always like that line to come back to whatever somebody's saying. It's just like, really though, like extracting bull sacks. That's the thing. Like, to me, I see that a lot. Like, people say, no, I don't have jargon. Yeah. Like, there's nothing, no complicated words that I'm using. But if you think about it, okay, what does impact mean? What does it really mean? What is that impact? What is that result? Like, those words might not be jargon, but they don't really mean anything.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing as well. Like, so many people repeat the same phrases. What was the stat I read the other day? There's something like, 30 years worth of video is uploaded to YouTube every day. So every single day, there's another 30 years worth of content that we're all trying to stay on top of. And that's just YouTube. That doesn't talk about any of the other platforms. The years, decades and decades worth of stuff every day is being piled onto the internet, vying for our attention. And most people aren't putting too much thought into that. So there's all of this regurgitated crap spewing onto the interweb every single day. And so all of those terms that are just repeated and recycled, no one pays any attention to them because they've just heard them a million times yesterday. So if you just put a little bit of thought into it, and again, put that little bit of extra effort in that most people aren't willing to do, and rather than say, we are out of this world, or we've got you covered, or just the standard run-of-the-mill copy paste shite that everyone else is saying, just try and think a little bit about it and just say it a little bit differently. And even just that is enough to pick you apart from people. And sometimes that's just sitting down for an extra minute on one statement to reword it in a slightly different way.
Well, there is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, and that is, what is the one social norm that you want to push back on and teach others about?
A social norm.
Things that like everybody's are just like, we're just so used to doing all the time, or like we've been taught in school. It's like, oh, this is the right thing to do, or we should be doing this.
What have people said in the past to this? Here's something you should know about me. I am, outside of doing work, I am possibly the most laid back individual on earth. So there are very few things that actually annoy me, like very few. So
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like outside of like the work, like, so I get quite into things when I'm working, which means when I'm finished work, I don't care what anyone's doing. When I'm so relaxed and so nonchalant about pretty much every single thing outside of this room. I just don't care about most things, to the point where it's probably quite concerning. So like when it comes to things like social norms that people are doing, I've probably never even picked up on them because I just don't care. So I can't think of anything. That's not a good answer, is it?
I mean, maybe just needs some introspection, but I think you've mentioned a few things as we've been talking, actually, in terms of, say, for example, when we're dealing with clients, etc., and it's like that moment where you're like, I have all these ideas, and then you're like, oh, wait, no, what will others think about it? And then they step back and try to play it safe again. That's a pretty big like social norm that,
being afraid of what other people think. And this is in my head at the minute because I've literally just recorded a video talking about this. So if you see a video of me next week saying this exact same thing, I'm sorry, but it's in my head because I've just filmed it. People sometimes give you the advice that you shouldn't care what people think. And that's obviously bad advice, because if you care what no one thinks, then you're an actual psychopath. But what you shouldn't care about is what people who don't like you think, because they will always exist. It doesn't matter what you do. You can't get up and breathe in the morning without annoying someone. Your mere existence will be annoying somebody. And the example that I use is something that annoys me on social media is people that put the fact that they love coffee in their bios. Like they're just coffee lover is like a main thing in their bio. What you're essentially telling the world is that a major part of your personality is the fact that you enjoy a flavor of something, right? That is the dullest thing imaginable. Every single person enjoys a flavor of something, but you've listed it as an intrinsic part of your personality. That's horrifically dull, and it annoys me. So, but I guarantee you that there hasn't been a single person on earth that has ever sat down to write that statement and has thought, oh, I best not write this in case I annoy someone. No one's thought that, because it's such a safe thing to say. It's such a popular opinion that no one stops and thinks, I don't want to say this because I might annoy somebody. Trust me, you're annoying the hell out of me. But you're annoying me because you're being unimaginative. But the point in that is that it doesn't matter what you write or what you create, you are annoying somebody. So you may as well annoy someone by doing something properly different and interesting, because that's how you attract people. If you do the safe thing, you're still going to annoy people, but you're playing it safe, so you're not really interesting anybody either. So do the different thing and screw people that you're annoying, because they will always exist. So you may as well properly annoy them by doing something properly different.
Exactly. Be there you go. We found one. And be in, like, have that imagination. Anyhow, thank you so much for coming on, mate. You can connect with Dave through the deets in the podcast show notes, and check out his Substack to get some creative in your life. And just for everyone's what's the
Substack
the link?
Yeah, I think it's doodlejuice.substack.com. That's the one. Yeah, doodlejuice.substack.com. Yeah, that's the one.
Thanks for listening, and drop a 5-star review if you'd like to hear more badassery. And when you're ready to shift your business from just another to the obvious, visit badasserybyb.com to get started. Now, points for anyone who can pick up this song. Oh my God. Becky.
From me? No.
Anything? You're like looking at me going,
no, that doesn't sound like it's from a genre I listen to.
Look at her.
Is that from a film? Is it from a film?
Let's go with like...
Time for bloopers. Yay!
It is. No, it is. It's recording now.
Yeah, I happen to like adult. You know, it does happen every now and again.
What, adulting?
Yeah, like, you know, keeping fridges full, which it currently is not.
Well, do you want me to tell you another Japanese story? You might not want to keep this one in.
Holy shit! What is it?
It's a risky one. So I you know the Yakuza out there, right? Like the gangs.
Tell me more. I mean, yeah, I know them.
Yeah. Okay. So there. Oh dear, you'll probably cut this out, but I'm going to tell you anyway. There was a guy. So loads of people came out to visit us when we were over there, right? And there was a friend of ours. I'm not going to mention any names, but a friend of ours came over, and she was followed by her brother and loads of his mates, right? She didn't invite them, but she's Turkish, and apparently it's a Turkish thing that they just invite themselves to things. So she came over and she went, my brother's come with all of his friends. They just wanted, don't worry, they're not staying with us. It's fine. Anyway, they came along and they stayed somewhere else and blah, blah, blah. And they're all quite a bit younger. So they're out doing their thing. They're all having a laugh. One of the guys is single. I think he was like 26, and he was single in Tokyo, thought to himself, I'm going to have a look on some of the old single apps. It's how, I don't even know what they are, but he's on one of the old apps trying to hook up, right? So he's on one of these, and he finds a girl, and he starts talking to her, and all of a sudden they arrange a Zoom date. I didn't know that was a thing, but they arranged a Zoom date, right?
What now?
Which sounds like the most pathetic thing imaginable. So he doesn't tell any of the other group that he's arranged this. So one night they're out, and he goes, listen, guys, I'm just going to go back to the hotel, have a little nap. You guys carry on. I'll meet up with you later on. They're right. Yeah, man, go for it. He goes back to the hotel, does this Zoom date, talks to this girl. Things are going pretty well. All of a sudden, she starts reaching downward and starts doing the things. I'll be relatively censored, seeing as we're recording, right? So she starts doing the deed, and he's like, "Woohoo! Here we go!" So he joins in, doing the date. So there's a bit of this going on over Zoom. So they do that till completion, and then he goes, "You're brilliant. Shall we meet up?" And she goes, yeah, absolutely. She's like, "Let me throw some times at you for the next couple of days, and we'll sort out a meet, and we'll definitely meet up." He closes the Zoom call. He's like, "Brilliant. I'm on to one here. This is great." Away he goes. He goes out, joins the other one, joins the other guys, has a good night out. All is well with the world. The next day, they're standing in a queue for something that they pre-booked. And he's looking all sheepish and quiet, and he's got like this cold sweat on, and his fucking eyes are bloodshot.
Okay.
And they're all like, "What is wrong? What is wrong with you?" He's like, "No, nothing. I'm fine. I'm like, "You sure?" He's like, yeah, I'm cool. Now, one of the group is his sister, so he doesn't want to talk to his sister about what he's done, but he's a nervous wreck. So eventually they get it out of him. They're like, "Look, dude, something's obviously wrong. You need to talk to us." He's like, "All right, okay, I'm going to tell you." So he tells them about what he'd done the previous night. Then he tells them about what happened afterwards. Now, this guy is 26, and he's got quite a big following online. Another reason why I'm not mentioning any names. He's got a decent following online. And it's how he makes his living. Now, he was contacted by a member of the Yakuza who said that his entire interaction on Zoom had been screen recorded, and that they will show it to his tens of thousands of followers if he doesn't pay thousands of pounds to get it taken down. So he panics and shuts down all of his social media accounts. And the last I heard, so this is going back maybe October or November last year.
Yeah.
So the last I heard was maybe like January this year, where he just shut his life off. He'd shut down his business. He'd shut down everything because he couldn't pay them, and B, he didn't want to take the risk of having him jerking off published online to all of his followers. So shit. A lesson to everybody is, do not do that on camera. Because it can ruin your entire life. So don't do it.
This is a value that you got from the show. Don't do bad things on the camera.
Dude, wanking and Zoom do not mix. That's who knew? Who knew?
Well, on to real business. What did you think this school was about?
That's probably not the best way to start. Yeah. Probably not the best way to start this, but I thought I would tell you that. Here endeth the rant.
I think we're feeling all right.